When I woke up, I found myself lying in a strange room. There were a few twisted little words written on the wall. Run away. Otherwise, you'll turn into a pig. It was only after I managed to escape that I realized it was a twisted game for the wealthy. Ding! Horror Story reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. My head hurts so much. It feels like it's going to crack open. Ah! I struggled to wake from my unconsciousness, gasping for air. Rubbing my aching head, it felt as if someone had hit me with a stick. After a long while, I finally felt better and looked around to assess my surroundings. This is a strange room. The decor is very minimalist, reminiscent of a style from the last century. The walls are snow white, and there's a clock hanging on the wall. Next to it is a window, in front of which is a desk, and beside it is the bed where I lay. Where is this place? I have no recollection of it at all. Just as I was trying hard to remember what had happened before, suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. I got up to open the door. When I opened it, a middle-aged woman in her 40s stood in front of me. She was holding a bowl of steaming ginger tea and said kindly, "You're awake. Drink this." I hesitated a bit. After all, I didn't know if this woman was good or bad. Should I trust her ginger tea? But she seemed to sense my worry and smiled, saying, "Don't worry, it's not poisoned. If I were a bad person, I would have harmed you while you were unconscious." "Oh, really?" Hee hee. I touched my head apologetically and then took the ginger tea, drinking it all in one go. After drinking the tea, I asked, "Ma'am, where am I?" The woman thought for a moment and said, "This is my home." "Why am I in your home?" I asked curiously. "You fainted at the farm yesterday, so I brought you back." She added, "As for how you ended up at our farm, I have no idea." I responded with an "oh," as if I had asked something but also like I hadn't asked anything at all. "By the way, hurry and finish up. It's time for dinner." She said kindly, "Come downstairs to try my cooking." I nodded repeatedly and then saw her out of the room. I also prepared to go downstairs for dinner. At that moment, I noticed a twisted line of text written on the wall by the head of the bed. "Run away. Otherwise, you'll turn into a pig." During dinner, I met the family. The middle-aged woman was the hostess of the house, and her husband was a chemistry teacher. They had 2 children. The eldest was a 20-year-old tall and thin young man who didn't talk much, and the youngest was an 8-year-old girl. Dinner was lavish, and the whole family seemed very warm. However, I felt that their warmth was a bit eerie. After dinner, I hurried back to my room, hoping to find my phone to contact my parents or the closest people in my contacts. Maybe they could help me regain my memory. But after searching the room, I couldn't find it. Could it be that I lost my phone too? What should I do? Just as I was feeling extremely anxious, suddenly 2 shadows appeared under the moonlight outside the window. I looked out and saw 2 men herding a group of pigs away into the distance. I recalled the small writing by the head of the bed. "Run away. Otherwise, you'll turn into a pig." This thought immediately sent a chill down my spine. Could those pigs be people who had transformed? I quietly slipped out of the room and snuck out the front door, wanting to follow them and investigate. Through the dancing shadows of the trees, I could see the faces of the 2 men clearly. One was the male head of the family, and the other was his eldest son. The pigs were so fat they looked ready to burst, greedily devouring the feed in the farm as if they hadn't eaten in ages. In just a short while, they had devoured all the feed visible on the farm. "Tomorrow we'll sell the pigs." "Should we sell this one from our home?" the eldest son asked his father. "This one from our home? Could they be talking about me?" Thinking it through, I suddenly felt a chill run down my spine. "Let's see if it listens. If it doesn't, we'll sell it too," the male head of the family replied coldly. "They must be talking about me. I couldn't bear to listen any longer and hurriedly darted into the wheat field. This family is full of criminals, I can't stay here for another moment. But just as I ran for a while, I suddenly came across the 8-year-old girl. She was standing in the wheat field ahead. The moonlight cast an eerie glow on her little face as she smiled strangely at me. "Brother, where are you going? Is she trying to stop me?" At that moment, I also heard the voices of the male head of the family and his son behind me. "Quick, Chase! The pig from our home has run away." As soon as the words left his mouth, I heard hurried footsteps behind me, growing closer and closer in the wheat field. They found out I was missing. And the little girl in front was still smiling eerily, walking toward me. "Brother, it's so late, where are you going?" I couldn't hesitate any longer. I grabbed a stone by my feet and smashed it hard against the little girl's head. She looked at me in shock, and then fell to the ground. Blood flowed everywhere, staining the surrounding soil red. As she fell, I let out a long breath, preparing to continue my escape. But at that moment, the eldest son shouted from behind me, "Dad, I caught it." Along with this shout, I heard the sound of a pig squealing. Turning around, I saw the two men tying a pig tightly with a hemp rope, drenched in sweat. I was a bit stunned. So, when they referred to the pig at home, were they really just talking about a pig? So, I killed someone. I killed someone. My mind went blank as I collapsed on the ground, drenched in sweat. At that moment, the male host and the eldest son turned to look in my direction. Taking advantage of the darkness, I hurriedly made my way back. The little girl was already dead. Dead people don't talk. As long as they didn't see me kill her, they would never suspect me. After returning home, I rushed into my room and lay down on the bed, covering myself with the blanket. No, I didn't kill her, I didn't kill her. I was so scared that I was a bit disoriented, trembling under the blanket. Just then, there was a knock on the door. "Knock, knock, knock. Are you asleep?" A middle-aged woman's voice came through. I hid under the covers, afraid to make a sound. Given the current situation, pretending to be asleep was the best choice. Only by not responding could I avoid giving myself away. She knocked on the door for a while longer, and when she saw I didn't move, she turned and went downstairs. I finally sighed in relief, getting up cautiously to peek through the door to check the situation outside. There really was no sign of the woman outside. It seemed she had truly left. The next second, a terrifying eyeball appeared right in front of me. Ah! I was startled and collapsed onto the floor. Then, the woman's voice came from outside the door, "Hey, don't be afraid, I mean no harm. I didn't mean to disturb you so late, I just wanted to see if my daughter was in your room. She disappeared after dinner tonight, I don't know where she went. Okay, come in." I got up trembling, and reluctantly opened the door to let her in. "Is your daughter missing?" I forced myself to stay calm and asked, "But I've been asleep in my room since dinner, I haven't seen her." "How about I help you look for her?" "No, it's fine." The middle-aged woman glanced around my room. "Let's go look for her again, you should get some sleep." After saying that, she hurried downstairs, and I closed my room door and lay back down on the bed. Finally, she left. I let out a long breath, still shaken. The rest of the night was sleepless. After this incident, who could sleep? Finally, I endured until dawn, got up, and went downstairs to wash up. Just as I was brushing my teeth, a familiar voice came from behind me. "Brother, good morning." I turned around in disbelief at the person in front of me. The little girl I had thought I killed last night was now standing behind me, smiling and waving. "You're not." I stared at her in shock, only then noticing a blood hole on her forehead, tightly wrapped in bandages. So she wasn't dead, she just had a hole in her head. I felt a bit relieved inside. If I were to be taken to the police station by this family now, At most it would be an intentional injury charge, which wouldn't constitute murder. I wouldn't get the death penalty. I'm sorry. I lowered my head and apologized to her. Last night, it was all a misunderstanding. Shoo. The little girl put her finger to her lips, making a gesture for silence. Then she slowly said, "Brother, let's not talk about this anymore. I told Dad that I fell by myself." I suddenly felt a bit touched. "Thank you, little sister." But she showed a strange smile. "Then you have to promise me one thing." I was a bit surprised. "What request?" Then she said something that sent chills down my spine. "I was sold here, brother, help me escape from the farm. This family, they are all murderers. Crazy people." Through my conversation with the little girl, I learned that she was originally the daughter of a family in the city. One day while playing outside, she was suddenly knocked out, and when she woke up, she had been sold to this farm. "Brother, please help me." The little girl wiped her tears. "I miss my mom. But how should I help you?" Looking at the pitiful little girl, I felt a bit at a loss. "It's easy. Today my dad and brother will go to town to sell pigs." The little girl said, "After they leave, only my mom will be home. You just need to tie up my mom, and then there will be no one at home, and we can escape." We can escape." Hearing the little girl say this, I was overjoyed. Didn't that mean I could escape too? Without hesitation, after breakfast, I quietly waited in the living room. Around 10 o'clock, the male host and the eldest son drove a cart of pigs away. I looked at the little girl. She nodded at me, signaling me to act now. I dared not hesitate, got up, and rushed into the kitchen. Based on experience, the woman should be in the kitchen washing dishes right now. And I heard the sound of running water from the kitchen faucet. Bang! I kicked open the kitchen door. But after the door opened, I was dumbfounded. The kitchen was empty, only the faucet was running quietly. "What are you looking for?" The woman's voice suddenly came from behind me, carrying an eerie and terrifying tone. I grabbed a kitchen knife and turned around, swinging it at her head. She was knocked down to the ground, and then I tied her up with rope. "Let's escape quickly." I grabbed the little girl's hand and urged her. But the little girl gently pulled her hand away at that moment. "Brother, this is to get back at you for hitting me with a rock last night." She chuckled a couple of times. Then, she suddenly started screaming in panic. "Dad! Brother! Help! There's a murder!" While shouting, she frantically ran out of the house. Before long, the male host and his eldest son burst into the room with shotguns in hand, their dark barrels aimed straight at me. I was instantly dumbfounded. This little girl actually played me. Then, the little girl cheerfully asked the male host, "Dad, today I saved Mom's life. Wasn't I amazing? When we sell pigs, can you reward me by letting me play at the internet cafe for a while?" What does this mean? She tricked me just to get to play at the internet cafe when they sold pigs in town. This family is full of lunatics. All of them are crazy. The male host didn't immediately shoot me. Instead, he locked me in a dark room and chained me to a chair with iron links. The whole room felt like an interrogation chamber. "I don't understand why you're doing this." The male host looked at me with a grim face. "Ever since you fainted on the farm, we saved your life. We cooked for you and gave you a place to stay. We never charged you a penny. You've been living here for free, yet you keep hurting my family time and time again. Don't you feel the slightest bit of guilt?" His question left me speechless. Indeed, this male host, along with his wife and son, had never harmed me. It seemed like I had always been paranoid and ungrateful. Could it be that I was suffering from paranoia? "I'm sorry," I lowered my head and apologized. "I didn't mean to." Think it over yourself." The male host sighed in disappointment. "Your recent actions have been too dangerous. Although you haven't killed anyone, for safety reasons, I can't release you for now. However, I will bring you your meals on time. After saying that, he stood up and left, slamming the door behind him. I sat in the darkness, gradually breaking down into tears. I don't know how long it had been. Just when I was feeling remorseful, suddenly, the door to the room opened. The eldest son walked in slowly and handed me a mobile phone. My dad said to tell you to quickly contact your family to come pick you up on the phone. Otherwise, our whole family is on edge. After he finished speaking, he threw the phone onto the ground in front of me and then left. I felt a surge of happiness. I still had a phone. As long as I could find someone I knew through the phone, I could get out of here. So, I struggled to move 2 steps forward while still chained to the chair, then I managed to pick up the phone and used my fingerprint to unlock it. Just then, a message popped up. Have you dealt with the pigs at the farm? The buyers are waiting to do the transplants, hurry up. The sender's notes read, high price for buying human organs, Mr. Olson. I was in despair. How could I be dealing with a human organ trafficking gang? Am I a criminal myself? I flipped through the contacts on the phone and found there were no entries for mom or dad. There were only 2 numbers, one for Mr. Olson and another for a man named Sergeant Stone. Since I had injured 2 people and had this unclear identity, I didn't dare to contact Sergeant Stone. The only person I could reach out to was this, Mr. Olson. So, I dialed the number. After a few beeps, he answered. Hello. A man's voice came through the line. You. I stammered, not knowing where to start. Buddy, can you get this done or not? The buyers are getting anxious. Mr. Olson sounded a bit impatient. I tried to calm myself down, but I'm currently facing some troubles. What troubles? Aren't you a professional killer? He sounded surprised. What? I am a professional killer. I suppressed my excitement and continued, could you repeat the task? I can't remember clearly. He chuckled, so that's the problem. I told you that day you were drunk, but you insisted you weren't. You can't even remember the task. He paused and then began to explain. In short, I'm in the organ trade, and this family on the farm is the supplier. They attack passers-by every month, take their organs, and stitch them into the bellies of pigs. Then they sell them to me. But last month, the people I sent out for the deal were ambushed by this family and wiped out. So, I hired you, a killer, to take out this family and bring back all their pigs. Got it? If you understand, get to work. The buyers waiting for transplants are driving me crazy. He finished and hung up the phone abruptly. And I finally understood the meaning of the small writing by the bed. That must have been left by the people who were attacked and had their organs taken, a warning for the next person. Run away. Otherwise, you'll become a pig. This meant you would have your organs taken and stitched into the belly of a pig. Thinking about it this way, everything made sense. The fact that I fainted on the farm should also be attributed to them. Organ suppliers attack every person who comes to their door equally. After all, this is their line of work. Thinking about this made my toothache flare up again. It felt like something was stuck between my teeth, unable to come out or go in. I struggled with my tongue for a long time before finally spitting out the foreign object. Looking at what I had expelled, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. It was a razor blade. Sure enough, as a professional killer, there are weapons everywhere. I used the blade to cut the ropes binding me, then prepared to escape. However, the door was locked from the inside, and I couldn't get out. But they would come to deliver food at regular intervals. As long as I could take out the person delivering food next time, I could seize the opportunity to escape. Just thinking about this made me feel much more relaxed. I could finally escape this perverted den. As long as nothing unexpected happens. But it was clear that something unexpected had occurred. I waited for 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours. The food delivery person still hadn't arrived. I was starving and panicking. Just when I was about to starve to death, finally, the door opened. The eldest son walked in, carrying a plate of fragrant dishes. Braised pork, cold pig's head meat, stir-fried meat with chili, all pork. The moment I thought about how the pigs here had their bellies filled with human organs, my stomach churned, and I almost threw up. Eat, the eldest son placed the food in front of me and was about to leave. Wait a minute, I quickly called out to him, move a little closer, I'm tied up and can't reach it. So he turned back and placed the food a bit closer to me. And his body was now closer to me as well. This is the moment. I swiftly pulled out the razor blade and slashed his throat. He let out a muffled groan and fell to the ground. Blood gushed out from the carotid artery, soaking the floor. The first opponent was taken down. I let out a long breath and turned to walk out the door. But as soon as I stepped outside, the next scene plunged me back into a freezing abyss. A man stood outside the door. It was the eldest son I had just killed. Wasn't he dead? You didn't die. I stepped back in terror. The eldest son said coldly, none of us in the family can die. At that moment, I realized something was off. On the first night, I had clearly crushed the little girl with a large rock, hitting her temple, yet the next day she appeared before me, lively and well. The next day, when I struck the middle-aged woman on the head with a kitchen knife, she acted like nothing happened. I should have noticed, this family was all abnormal. It seems you are naturally a bad seed. Suddenly a voice rang out, the male head of the family walked out from the hallway beside me, looking at me with a cold smile. We let you stay here for free, without you spending a dime. The result is, you've already killed my family 3 times. Being a good person isn't easy. After saying that, he pulled out a shotgun from his waist and aimed it at me. Son, you go about your business. This bad seed is mine to deal with. I'm done for. This time, I'm really going to die. What kind of good people are you? In despair, I shouted angrily, aren't you just here to harvest my organs for money? Pretending to be noble. At that moment, the male head of the family laughed. Nonsense. We have never thought of it that way. You've seen how our family treated you. When have we ever harmed you? Moreover, we abide by the law, how could we commit such a heinous act as organ trafficking? You are a bad seed yourself, do you think everyone else is a bad seed too? I was instantly speechless. Again, I had been deceived. He was right, his family had indeed treated me very well. Why did I repeatedly kill them? Am I really a born bad seed? Why have I become like this? Clearly, this family is treating me well, why am I repaying kindness with malice? No. My mind raced, and I suddenly noticed something strange. It seemed like everything was being guided by someone unseen. On the first night, it was because of the small words at the head of the bed, otherwise, you will become a pig, that I truly believed I was this family's pig. So when they caught piglets, I mistakenly thought they were capturing me. That's why I killed the little girl with a rock. It was all because of those small words. The next day, I kidnapped the middle-aged woman because I fell into the little girl's trap. Just now, I killed the eldest son of this family, even more so because of the information on my phone and my conversation with Mr. Olson. So it wasn't my fault, I had been pushed along. But who was pushing me from behind? And also, what kind of monsters is this family? Why can't they die? Now is not the time to ponder these questions, as the male head of the family still had his gun aimed at me, ready to fire at any moment. I raised my hands and took a step back. No, don't shoot, it's a misunderstanding. The male lead sneered, misunderstanding? You killed 3 members of my family and still say it's a misunderstanding? No. I quickly shook my head, it's not 3. The male lead asked, what? Did I say it wrong? I smiled awkwardly and then slowly said, it's. Before I could finish, My right hand grabbed the shotgun and raised it up. The shotgun went off with a loud bang, shattering the chandelier in the hallway. Then, I thrust the blade in my left hand forward, slicing across the male lead's throat. He stared at me in disbelief before collapsing to the ground. "It's 4." I said slowly. I picked up his shotgun and ran out of the farm. This family was too sinister, they could come back to life after a while, so I couldn't afford to linger. Stepping out of the door, the sun shone brightly outside. Hoping for a smooth escape, I silently wished myself luck. However, just as I ran out of the farm, I was suddenly dumbfounded. It was as if the game world had glitched. As soon as I stepped out of the farm, the surroundings rapidly changed. From the vast fields, it turned into an incredibly dark room. The room had only one huge screen hanging on the wall. The screen was broadcasting a live stream. And the content of the live stream was a person. This person was wearing the same clothes as me. When I walked left, he walked left, when I walked right, he walked right. That's right, this person was me. The live stream had comments popping up continuously. "Wow, this piglet is impressive, he actually managed to escape here. Made a fortune, $1 million in hand. Ha ha ha. Keep betting. I want to bet on him. What does all this mean?" I was getting more and more confused, and my head was starting to ache. As I was trying to make sense of it all, someone walked into the room. "Want to know what's going on?" The speaker was the male lead whom I had just slit the throat of. I watched him warily, aiming the shotgun at his head. "Are you going to shoot me?" He looked at me mockingly. I didn't say anything, just silently tightened my grip on the stock and the trigger. "Fine, then go ahead and shoot." He turned around and walked in front of me, placing one hand on the gun barrel, pressing it tightly against his chest. "I'll give you a chance. I'll count to 3, and you shoot. Otherwise, put the gun down." I gripped the stock tightly, trembling all over, and growled fiercely, "I will kill you." 3. My finger was on the trigger. 2. I was ready to pull the trigger. 1. I closed my eyes and shouted, "Die." Then, I pulled the trigger with a jolt. But, there was no sound. I was shocked. What was going on? At that moment, the male lead seized the gun barrel and snatched the shotgun away. "You really dared to shoot." "Unfortunately, with this old-fashioned shotgun, you have to reload after firing a shot." He took a bullet out of his pocket and pressed it into the chamber, smiling as he said, "I already fired a shot in the attic." I was instantly stunned. "Before you die, let me make it clear for you." He turned and walked to the screen of the live stream, slowly explaining. "Actually, this is a gambling game for the rich. You are the selected player, also called the piglet. The rich created this game to satisfy their perverse desires. Then, they find people to challenge it here. At the same time, they will also bet based on the challenger's progress. The longer the progress, the higher the odds. For example, if I bet $1 million, and you go crazy on the first night, I lose everything. If you only go crazy the next day, I make $2 million. If you go crazy on the third day, I make $3 million. So, in the first challenge, we will never let you get hurt, but we will torment your mind until you break and go insane. The rich love to watch the story of a normal person being tortured into madness. I hope you are still this lucky in the second round." After the male lead finished speaking, he faced the screen of the live stream and clicked a few times. Then slowly said to the screen, "The first round of the game is over. Now, let's start betting for the second round. Will the piglet be able to escape the farm alive?" Alive, odds 1 to 2, dead, odds 1/10,000. I must escape. If the first round was just tormenting my mind, the second round was really going to kill me. And he set the odds at 1/10,000, meaning the chance of successfully escaping was only 1 in 10,000. I screamed as I fled the live stream room, dashing toward the vast wheat fields, while the male lead slowly followed me. He held the shotgun, shooting in the direction I was running. Bang! The bullet hit a rock next to me, making me run even more desperately. Bang! 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 3 shots in a row grazed my body. Someone save me! Someone save me! I shouted to the sky as I ran. In a panic, I accidentally fell into a dirt pit. The pit was deep, and with my own strength, I couldn't climb out. But fortunately, the surrounding trees were lush and the weeds were thick, allowing me to hide under the vines in the pit, just enough to cover my body. Heaven, let me escape this disaster, I beg you. I hid under the vines, praying continuously. The footsteps of the male lead grew closer, and my heart raced faster. I must not be discovered. Fortunately, he arrived at the pit, paused for a moment, and then continued on his way. I let out a sigh of relief. Just then, my phone in my pocket suddenly rang. Oh no, he must have discovered me. No matter how I calculated, I never anticipated that they could track me using the phone they gave me. Sure enough, the male lead returned to the pit, smiled as he hung up the phone, and began shooting at the vines. Bang! 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 The blood flowing from beneath the vines stained the green leaves red. With my last ounce of strength, I used my bloodied finger to write my final words in the dirt pit. This would serve as a warning for future generations. Run away, or you will become a pig. I believe that as long as the baton is passed on, one day someone will escape this game. My head hurt so much, it felt like it was going to split open. Ah! A piglet with a new face struggled to wake from its coma, gasping for breath. This person rubbed his aching head, feeling as though someone had hit him over the head with a stick. After a long while, he finally felt better and began to look around. This was a strange room. The room was simply decorated, resembling a style from the last century. The walls were snow white, and a clock hung on the wall. Next to the clock was a window, and in front of the window was a desk, beside which was the bed he was lying on. Where is this place? Why don't I remember anything? Just as he was trying hard to recall what had happened before, suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. This person got up to open the door. When he opened the door, a middle-aged woman in her 40s appeared before him. She was holding a bowl of steaming ginger tea and kindly said, "You're awake. Drink this." He hesitated a bit. After all, he didn't know whether this woman was good or bad. Could he trust her ginger tea? But the woman seemed to sense his worries and smiled kindly, just like every other day. "Don't worry, it's not poisonous. If I were a bad person, I would have harmed you while you were unconscious." 6 months later. In the distant high seas, a luxurious cruise ship floated. On the ship, hundreds of well-dressed wealthy people and beautiful women were intently watching a live broadcast. The live stream was titled, "The Game of the Rich." The piglet has cleared the level. With a shout, this grand gamble came to an end once again. As a result, a group of wealthy people celebrated wildly, while another group yelled in anger. "This piglet is too strong. I bet 2 million on him, thinking he wouldn't escape." Hey, calm down, buddy. It's just a game, there are wins and losses, it's perfectly normal. What's your 200 million compared to mine? I put in 100 million. And now he cleared the level. I'm completely at a loss. The voices rose and fell, contributing to the excitement of the wealthy's celebration. While the revelry continued inside the cruise ship, no one noticed that the piglet who had cleared the level was slowly walking in from outside. He had been cleaned up and changed into a classy tuxedo, exuding luxury. Looking at those wealthy people who had toyed with him, he felt no anger. Instead, he was intrigued to join the celebration. Because, after clearing the level, the piglet could enter high society and place bets with the wealthy. Moreover, all the money lost by the previous wealthy players flowed into his pockets. This was his reward for clearing the level. It was just a pity for the piglets who paved a bloody path for his success and built a wall of flesh. Countless piglets paved the bloody road with their lives, achieving wealth for only one person. And this wealthy person would go on to torment piglets just like he once was. Such is the way of the world. As a new round of the game began, he looked at the piglets being live-streamed on the screen, chuckling softly and feeling emotional. Why were those piglets so foolish back then? How could they believe the words designed by the wealthy in the storyline? How could they fall into the trap set by the wealthy? Could it be? Did they really think that as long as they worked hard to climb, they could get out? So naive. This wealthy person took out a stack of cash from his tuxedo and casually tossed it into the betting pool. I bet 5 million, this piglet is so foolish, he definitely won't escape.